we ready to have a lovely time?
Yeah!
Yeah, well, bad news. Bad news, because I'm actually a real piece of shit, actually. I'm actually a really nasty bitch, actually. Okay, I feel like you don't believe me. I'll level with you. I'm trying to rebrand to be nasty because I used to be known as sweet and innocent. But the thing is, when you're known as sweet, people underestimate you. Like, people think I can't handle hecklers. I can handle hecklers because once someone heckled me, and quick as a flash, I fired straight back with, "You're hurting my feelings." And that showed them, so who wants some? Nice, too scared. I will admit it is a bold move to rebrand for your debut show. Forget everything you've never heard about me. But now that I've gone bad, I talk about the things good girls don't talk about. Like, I talk about, like, sex, drugs, rock and roll, like Nickelback, that sort of, Okay, cool, you guys rock out. Guys. Okay, from doing this show, I'm a huge Nickelback fan, but I've learnt the hard way that you think Nickelback... Yeah, the intake of breath was a bit much there. I'm learning the hard way that you guys think Nickelback fans are losers. Is that what's going on? You said no, but in a way that was like you were nodding. And this is how you remind me what I really am. So I recently... were you just explaining that as a Nickelback lyric?
I just said I don't know who Nickelback are.
You don't know who Nickelback are? Wait, what? And you don't know who Nickelback...
No, I said don't worry, it's okay.
Don't... Okay, the audience has to reassure everyone else that it's fine. Basically, Nickelback... Oh, fuck. Okay, and scene. Nickelback are basically like a hardcore, like, heavy metal band. I think that's... So I recently re-listened to How You Remind Me, and it's actually pretty fucked up, because in that song he says, couldn't cut it as a poor man stealing, and then after that he goes, tried living like a blind man. Sorry, what? When did Chad Kroeger try living as a blind man? That is fucked up. So it's good you're not into Nickelback. But maybe the reason he did, so Chad Kroeger, lead singer of Nickelback, maybe the reason he did, because in 2003, he was voted the ugliest dude in rock. By a YouGov poll. That's what I thought was completely unnecessary. So I've been going around the country making fun of Chad Kroeger from Nickelback for a while. But it turns out somebody came up to me and they explained, he doesn't say tried living like a blind man. He actually says, I'm tired of living like a blind man. It was metaphorical, so I've been calling him a piece of shit for no reason. Sorry, Chad. But this story starts in 2003. Do any of us remember that? Yes. Okay, I know that more of you do, but okay, fine. 2003, because 2003 is when I published my first autobiography, age 11. And on the front cover, I wrote, I'm Chelsea Birkby, I'm nice, I'm lovable, and I'm a typical Gemini. Yeah, already quite unhinged. But then underneath that, in Nokia 3310, okay. But then underneath that, in Nokia 3310 text language, I wrote "Welcome to my life," but it was spelt WELCUM. But I didn't know what that was at the time. It was a time pre-cum. That's something. That's something else. But it really settled on that early that I was my identity is to be nice. And I just thought if you could figure out all the ways to be nice, then you'd be lovable and then you'd be safe. But now I'm trying to rethink where did I get this idea from? And I'm looking back now and I think maybe I got this idea from one of the biggest activist groups at the time, a group called the 𝒫𝓁𝒃𝓄𝒃𝓒𝒃. Because in 2003, the biggest song in the whole wide world was "Where Is the Love?" Thank you. Saying that along with me made this sound so culty though. Everyone, where is the love? Where is the love? But where is the love? It connected with you as well. Yeah. It really spoke to me too. Me and the kids in my year. Not that I'm trying to Okay, yeah, maybe. Me and the kids in my year. It connected. I was listening to that song. Wow, people really are living. They ain't got no mamas. I understood it. It connected. And it inspired me, in turn, to become an activist, and I became the most important type of activist there is. I became a poet. Okay, I feel we're in Bristol, there actually are poets in the room. Can I get a... I became a I decided to tackle the issues, even though it became clear at 11 I actually did not understand any of the issues. But I wrote so much poetry at that time that my school had to recognise me as the school's poet laureate, which was something they created in response to the sheer amount of poetry I was like churning out and performing. But I really was that? Were you doing that? School poet laureate. Thank you. Are you a poet as well?
Sometimes.
That's really deep. So I don't know about you, but I wrote a lot of poetry about terrorism. Okay, anti-terrorism. I'm anti-terrorist and I always have been, like that's my stance. Okay, I don't know why that's making you so uncomfortable. I'm anti-terrorist and I can prove that I was anti-terrorist because a lot of the poems I wrote about the time were about that, and one was an acrostic and it spelled out assholes. That'll show 𝒫𝓁𝒶𝓈𝑒. Okay, I feel like you guys aren't believing that I'm anti-terrorist. I am, and I was like, that's it. I'm gonna tackle the issues, and that's what I dedicated myself to. But I don't know if I can be blamed for being strange at that time, because 2003, the biggest things in the whole wide world, it was Black Eyed Peas, Where Is the Love? It was the Britney and Madonna VMA Kiss, which I didn't understand. I just knew was very important. And then the other biggest thing in the whole wide world was the Crazy Frog. Do we remember that guy? Yeah, fondly? Just you remember him fondly. Okay, for anyone that doesn't remember Crazy Frog, basically Crazy Frog was a frog on a motorbike with his schlong out, like that was his whole... Stop, you don't remember the schlong? Okay, do you remember?
I don't remember the song. No.
Okay, you politely put your hand up to say, I remember the song. Okay, I really appreciate that, because I need everyone else to know, I did not make that up. He had a schlong, and then they pixelated it, and then they removed it, but it was too late, because I know what I saw. No, okay, anyone else, can you give me a cheer if you've seen the Crazy Frog's penis? You have! Okay, thank you for you. Okay, because follow-up question you might have if you've never seen Crazy Frog's penis is what state was it in? It was semi-flaccid, semi-hard, I guess, depending if you're a glass half full kind of guy. But real talk, was Crazy Frog's penis the first penis you ever saw, Ron? Okay, yeah, that checks out. Moving on. Okay, because Crazy Frog, basically, that's... I'm sorry, are we still friends? So, the first penis you saw was your own. Nice. Well, Crazy Frog's penis, that's where I got most of my sex education from, and I don't think that's a good thing about our country. I got most of my sex education from that, because the noughties was a time that was hyper-sexualised, but nobody spoke to me about sex, so I knew Victoria had a secret, but I didn't know what it was. It was banging, some of you know. And my parents, they never told me about sex. What they would do instead is anytime there was a romantic scene on telly, even if it was just kissing, they would cover my eyes and they would go, naughty! That wasn't going to have lifelong consequences. Clearly it did. It did, right? Because whatever you learn about sex in your childhood goes on to shape you later in life, and Freud wrote a lot about that, and he's of course the father of psychotherapy, or daddy. How do I not acknowledge that you've been allocated daddy? And thank you for coming, daddy. You all do a round of applause for that. No, you can say, because I have to edit this part out.
I think it's for the best. Thank
You think it's for the best? Thanks. You're welcome. And I
No, don't leave me then.
don't... You did tell me not to speak to you specifically. We had that chat. Okay, to clarify, we had the chat about not speaking to each other, not about a daddy thing. Okay, there's a lot going on here. Okay, how do we make this smooth in the video? Okay. If there's a clip of you doing this in shot. Okay, wow. How do we... Because No, I'm here for you primarily, but also for YouTube.com. But I didn't learn about sex. That's where I got my sex education from. I don't think that is the best way. The way I truly learned about it was someone came up to me at school one day and they were like, "You want to hear about sex, do you, kid?" And I was like, "Becky, you're also 11." But there's always one kid on the playground that has all the information for some reason, and they're going to tell you about it whether you asked or not. And I have my diaries from that time, and on the day that Becky told me about what sex was, I wrote in my diary, "This is the worst day of my life." And it's because all I'd known up until that point was that sex was bad, you weren't supposed to know about it, and you definitely weren't supposed to do it. And I do I have my diaries from that time, but I got rid of the real things a few years ago, and what I at the time I now know it to be a manic episode, but at the time I thought it was the life-changing magic of tidying up. So I got rid of loads of them because they did not spark joy. Marie Kondo's book also in the bin as well. So I have my diaries from that time, and I can tell from them that I picked up really weird messages about sex. So I have so this isn't the real thing anymore, but I did take pictures of it. So this is actually just a notebook that I have. An ex gave it to me and said, "Saw this and thought of you." It's leopard print and it says "girl boss," so you know who you're dealing with. Okay. So this is my diary on the very last day of primary school, and just see if you can spot where I might have picked up some confusing messages about sexuality. Okay, Chelsea Birkby, Secret Diary 2003. Okay, are you ready? Okay. "Me and Casey snogged, no tongues, brackets, not a lesbian." Everyone did except Regine, Kate and Sophie. I think that was everybody else at the party. "Gotta go, I'm really sad, love Chelsea. P.S. don't know what's happened with Josh." Josh was my boyfriend at the time. But I've never seen him since because we went to different schools, but I also, that means we haven't split up. Is Josh still technically my boyfriend? Because he actually lives in Bristol, so if you know him, say hi. Okay. But I clearly I picked up some weird messages about sex, and I wish people had just told me about it instead. I think if it was part of the curriculum, that would be a lot better. I think it'd be better if they taught us more of this stuff at school. Drugs as well. Did you learn about drugs at school? Give me a cheer. You, over here you did? Yeah? You learn about drugs at school? On the curriculum or? Okay. Extracurricular. And that was sweet that you repeated it. That's really I got you, bro. Okay, extra. So we didn't learn about it at school from teachers. What we had at our school instead was we had one display outside the library block, and for some reason it focused exclusively on meth. I don't know why, because globally meth is quite a big problem. Oh my god, was my hair tucked in here the whole time? Okay. It's fine, it doesn't matter. Okay, but globally meth is a big problem, but amongst year 9s in Newport Pagnell, not so much. But still they were the students of Ousdale need to know. And what it was 6 arrest mugshots of this woman from middle age to about 10 years later when she was designated literally the poster girl for meth. I don't know how else to describe it. You've had a visceral memory of this, haven't you? Yeah, that's what it said. And then underneath that, in all caps, it said, "Not very nice, is it?" Not very nice, is it? Prompting you to agree that her face, is not very nice, is it? And then again, underneath that, in all caps, it said, "Don't let drugs ruin the face of your neighbourhood." Yeah, but just the real victim of drug addiction, your neighbourhood aesthetic. We would have won Britain in Bloom if it wasn't for you skagheads. It was so fucked up, and I don't know about you, but it didn't work for me because between the first picture and the second, she'd lost a lot of weight, as is customary with meth. Between that and the next one, she dyed her hair blonde, which I don't think was meth related, just personal choice. And then between that and the next one, she'd grown it a lot longer. So at that age, I thought she looked a lot nicer. So the message I got was just a little bit of meth. That's why I wish they had more relevant drug not adverts, more relevant drug messaging, cry regularly. Well then, don't do MDMA. Okay, that's just me. I should have known drug stuff would never fly in Bristol. Back off. I do wish they had more relevant drug messaging. Basically instead of that, I wish they had some that were shitting your shitting yourself, not very nice, is it? And then come with me on this. And then a picture of someone before, during. and after shitting themselves. And then it says, don't do ket then. Okay, I'm just saying I would have found that helpful. Okay, peek behind the curtain. There are 2 times a comedian drinks on stage. One is when they are crushing it so hard that there's like rolling laughter and they have to drink just to let the moment pass. And the other one is when they've just told a story about shitting themselves and no one's really got on board. But I like... I have a friend who does a lot of drugs, and I'm trying to get her to stop. But you know what they say: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't get it out of a K-hole. It's just what they say. But I think if we'd have learned about this stuff at school, it would have prepared us for adulthood. And like other cultures have these better like introductions to adulthood. Like some places have like bat mitzvahs or quinceañeras. But I feel like the closest coming of age ceremony we have in the UK is Freshers' Week, which is where you just encourage 18-year-olds to like drink and bang. Like I don't know if that is the best introduction to adulthood. And so I was the first person in my family to go to university. If that sounds surprising, I can explain. I just learned my accent from Hermione. Like that is the whole story. Thank you. But growing up, so like uni was where I met really fancy people. But growing up, I thought me and my family are fancy. I was like, if we're not fancy, why does Dad wear so much jewellery? Yeah, turns out we're not fancy. And other clues were there, like I didn't go to that good a school. I went to a state comprehensive, but I don't even think it was fully comp, more like third party fire and theft. Which there was a lot of. Thank you for trying to get a clap started. I appreciate that, but they didn't back you up. Daddy. Oh no, I said I wouldn't talk to you. So that was voted one of the funniest jokes of the Fringe last year by a right-wing paper. Is that okay? Still, I put it on the poster. I don't know if that's all right. But like, there were other clues that maybe like I wasn't that fancy. So my dad, he works in the print trade, and he works as an estimator. If you don't know what that means, it means he gives quotes like, "Life is what happens while you're making other plans." Freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. Like he's a very wise man. Whereas my mum, she teaches in a prison and she teaches drug awareness to young offenders. But like I think they might be aware. I just think all young people are aware, and like working with young people has like started to affect her language, because when I went back home recently, she asked me to get some basil from the garden. I got parsley. She called me a waste man. She called me a waste man, and I told that story in Bath, and Bath's a pretty fancy place, isn't it? And then somebody came up to me at the end, and she said she was maybe the fanciest person I've ever met, and she said, "Excuse me, can you really not identify basil by the leaf?" I said, no, sorry, I can't. And she said, "You are a waste man." So that's what I'm dealing with. But no, truly, interactions with like people I meet at gigs is my favourite part of it. Like maybe my favourite / worst one ever was the first gig back from lockdown, and it got off to a really weird start because everyone was so like, remember how weird it was just being back in a room with people. So people felt weird. Comics were anxious to be back on stage, so jokes weren't really working. But there was a guy in the front row who was giving off such good energy. So I thought, okay, instead of doing jokes, I'm going to chat to him. So I said, "I like you, sir. You've got a twinkle in your eye." And then he said, "I've got conjunctivitis." So university, it was overwhelming because I was meeting like fancy people like I'd never met before. Now I'm kind of between worlds where like half of my friends are born with a silver spoon in their mouth, but half of my friends are born like in spoons. Okay, you guys are going to get a clap started at one point, I believe in you. But now I am between worlds because I've recently moved to Oxford. How do we feel about Oxford? Thank you. That's nice. Okay, that's nice because mostly like doing stand-up, saying I like live in Oxford now gets a negative reaction, and I figured out why. And I think it's because like I have a lot more people visit me now. I live in Oxford rather than Milton Keynes. But what? Don't say fair enough. But they do. They visit me there a lot more. And so when I had some friends come to visit who were going around Oxford, and we were going around Radcliffe Camera, this like beautiful library in the centre of town, and we were walking around it, and there were 2 people walking around the top, which I'd never seen before. So my friend shouted up, "Oi, how'd you get up there?" And the person at the top replied, "Academic excellence." And I understood why people fucking hate Oxford. That is fair enough. That's not where I went to uni, but still, I was like meeting like truly fancy people, and their attitudes were so different. Like I was meeting really wealthy people. Like one girl bought a Domino's full price. Okay, I understand that wasn't funny, but it's still one of the most shocking things I've ever witnessed. Because like my relationship with money is basically like whenever I get any money that I'm not expecting, I call it spendo. I call it spendo. So when I was recently back at my parents' house, I got a tax rebate. So I opened it and I was like, spendo! But my dad, who has seen this cycle play out, looked me deep in my eyes, put his hand on my wrist and said, Savo. But it was like such a difficult adjustment because like in Freshers Week, one of my friends threw a sexy cat themed party, but I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't ready to go as a sexy cat, so I was like, I'm not going as a sexy cat just because you told me to. Fuck the patriarchy. Okay, I hoped more of you might be on board with that. No, but you're right. Don't fuck the patriarchy. It will only encourage them. That's what I learned. So instead, I didn't want to go as a sexy cat. So what I did instead is I bought a nude coloured dress and a choker and a bald cap. And instead, I went as a Sphinx cat. But then my friend Henry told me I didn't look like a Sphinx cat, I looked like a testicle. And you don't want to go to a sexy cat party as a single bollock. Could be a couple's costume. Oh, you don't want me to talk to you.
Not in that context.
Not in that context. Okay, sorry, Daddy. But like it truly, like it was overwhelming. It was okay. How do I segue back in from that if we have to cut all of this out? Okay, like university, but it was overwhelming. Like people were throwing these parties, and that was the first place that I started to go like out for the first time. Like was drinking more, and it was confusing because as well as the attitudes towards money, right? Like because the Black Eyed Peas, they were like really anti-wealth, and I think they got that message. Like Where's the Love has a lot of like anti-wealth messaging, and I think they got a lot of that. Like the Black Eyed Peas, very religious. They got that from Jesus. Do you know him? Do you know like that? And I get the feeling that Jesus is like really anti-wealth, but then of course like Jesus doesn't care about money. Like he doesn't have to pay for wine. Like that was a long way to go for that joke. But like wine, that's what I really like got into at university. I became kind of a connoisseur of like Echo Falls. It's good stuff, good vintage. And so that was like, because 2010, okay, I got really into drinking, and like 2010 is the era, like when I drink, I do it right, like getting slizzard, like that was my whole, that was my whole thing, like I love pre-drinking, or as I call it now, drinking. And I loved it, like I loved like getting dressed up and going to the club. Okay, so I wrote this bit years ago and now I can't do it with passion. Bristol, do we love the club? Okay, do we hate it when I say the club? Yes. Okay, please don't say yes. But in 2010, okay, everyone loved the club. Everyone loved the club, and I loved it particularly. Like I loved the music they play in the club. Like the kind I'm talking about is the kind that's definitely offensive, like at women, but it's also so catchy. Like that's the problem, and that became like my favorite type of music. Like I got out of like the hardcore like Nickelback phase. I didn't have the one in between where I got into folk music, but that was before I like got into sex. Nobody likes Mumford & Sons if they have an active sex life. That is my main message, but I feel like it's hurt some of you. Okay, well, to any fans in, let me know if you still like them after you've had sex, you virgins. No, but I'm talking about the music in... I'm talking about the music in the club. Okay, I'm talking about the music in the club. Like, basically, like, I'm talking about, like, any Pitbull song. That's the kind of stuff. Okay, wow, for those of you who don't know who Pitbull is, he's also known as Mr. Worldwide, so that's on you, Bristol, get some culture. But when Pitbull's on in the club in 2010, because I requested him, he says stuff like, and here's an introduction to him if you don't know him, he says stuff like, she liked that freaky stuff, that nasty stuff, that 2 in the O, and 1 in the I. One in the eye. I don't think she does like that. Pitbull. And I'm sorry to break it to you if there are any Pitbull fans in. Doesn't seem like there is. But I googled him and it turns out he's not a particularly nice man. No, he's not, because loads of troubling articles come up. Stuff like Pitbull attacks toddler. Pitbull mauls man's face off. Pitbull banned from breeding in the UK. Which is hard because he loves those bitches. Okay, I felt some of you pull back when I said bitches, but no, but bitches has been reclaimed. Are you I could tell. You're all bitches. Yeah, thank you. Because it's specifically like bad bitches that has been reclaimed, isn't it? And I was trying to figure out like why that's good. And I think it's because bad is bad and bitches is bad, but together they make a double negative, so they loop right back around to being positive. And bad bitches love nothing more than being mathematically sound. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to add a clap over that. Humiliating, I'm humiliated. But like, so I first... do you think I'm a bad bitch?
No! Yeah.
No,
What's the right answer? You know we're not allowed to talk. We're not allowed to talk. Okay, yes or no, bad bitch?
Definitely.
Yay! Thanks very much. And I think you're a bad bitch, and we're not allowed to talk, but I get a good bad bitch energy from you. Because like I first heard that from Cardi B. Do we love Cardi B? The crowd goes wild. Okay, I love Cardi B because she is so empowered and like so sexually empowered. Like she says stuff like, "Pop that pussy in church, pop that pussy while you work," and I'm like, I don't know what that means, Cardi, but I'll try. And I think we do need that in the UK because we have so much sexual shame, and I think a lot of it goes back to Victorian times and the idea that British people are prim and proper, and myths like masturbating will make you go blind. Like, you're doing it wrong. Like, what, was Pitbull involved? Or So I am, like, at university, I was really trying to get over that sexual shame. Like, I was trying to get sexually empowered, but I find it hard to know, like, what's sexual empowerment and, like, what's a see-through top. That's my struggle. And so at uni, I really started to try and dress differently, like to try and dress sexier, like this kind of stuff. No, but I really was trying to dress sexier, and so that's not a bad thing. But what was bad is that like I was buying a lot of those clothes from fast fashion websites, and I know that's bad. But the thing is, they do too, because as soon as you order from one of these websites, you get an email that's like, "Congratulations on your misguided purchase." Like, the names are so clever. Like, no one's going to ask, like, boohoo.com what their stance is on sweatshops, are they? Like, they may as well be called, like, alldiddums.org. Like, they don't give a fuck. So I've stopped shopping at them, and it's definitely for the ethical reason, but also partly because the last thing I bought from one of these sites was a suit. And the suit came with a missing gusset. Okay, which to clarify was not what I intended to order. Okay, I was supposed to have a gusset. It came with a missing gusset. I was like, crotchless workwear, girl boss. Like, she really is a nasty gal. So I stopped shopping from them. But I realised at the time when I was dressing like much sexier, I found it like people were responding to me really differently. And I think we learn a lot about ourselves by how other people see us. And like the main thing I've learned about myself recently is that the only people who fancy me love Lord of the Rings. Yeah, they love Lord of the Rings, and they fully give it away when they say, "I love your ears." Like, that is what's going on there. I thought the Fringe would help. It hasn't made a difference at all. But you don't need to feel bad for me about that, because I actually get hit on with that stuff so often that I've had to learn I have a boyfriend in Elvish. Like, it's Ingar Amelithrill. But like, I think there's a reason why, because elves have always been fetishized, and I looked it up, and Tolkien says it's actually an acronym, ELF, which stands for Elf I'd Like to Fuck. That's just a true fact for everybody. And that was what I was like studying at university, sort of. Sort of. So I was at university studying philosophy, and the main philosophy I was interested in was about like how we see ourselves and how we're seen by other people. And my favourite philosophers were the existentialists. Can I get a cheer if we love them? Thank you, this one's for you. Ah, the person that didn't know Nickelback, but you're like, Jean-Paul Sartre.
Philosophy as well.
You did philosophy as well?
Yeah.
And do you like Jean-Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, we're dubbing this over with, yes, tell me more. Okay, here's why I loved them. Like, first of all, so the existentialists, they had this view about like how it hurts us, how we're seen by other people. And this was about the era when I started being more influenced by philosophy than by pop culture. And it's summed up in this Jean-Paul Sartre quote, which is where he says, it's quite famous, you might know it. He says, hell is other people, and heaven is a half pipe. Like, that's that's actually the full quote. Not a lot of people know that. But the reason I love the existentialists is because they are the sexiest philosophers. Here's why, like Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, two of the most famous ones, they were in a lifelong polygamous relationship, and like some people call that like friends with benefits, which I can understand, because friendship, you know, should be beneficial, you know. Like if they're not sucking my dick, what's even the point? That's what I say about friendship. It's a nice thing. But they're also part of the reason why they're the sexiest philosophers is also because they're French. And would you agree? Like France is way sexier than the UK. Would you say so?
Yes.
Yeah. Oui. Ooh. Do we have someone French in? Very sexy. I don't know what to ask you about that. How is it good being French? Is it good being French in the UK?
It's okay.
It's okay. That's incredible. And so you two are together?
Yes.
Yes.
And you're British?
Yeah.
And do you think France is sexier than the UK?
Yes.
Yeah.
They dress better.
Okay. They dress up. And do you think Brits are sexy?
Sort of.
For anyone that can hear, that was sort of. And then you added at least one of them. The guy in the Breton stripes. She's taken. Okay, you said you didn't want to be involved, but you're doing a lot of interacting. Okay, I think a lot of people think... Okay, I won't look you in the eyes as I do this thing. A lot of people think France is sexier than the UK. I personally do. And I think it's because, like, France... Okay, first of all, you have the French kiss, don't you? Which is, like, passionate necking. Like, we don't have a British kiss. We don't have a British kiss, and it's because if we did, it wouldn't be making out. It would be that moment you try and kiss somebody on the cheek, but then instead you get behind their ear, and then neither of you say anything, but both of you wish you were dead. I think that would be the British kiss. Okay, so when I was doing this at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, someone shouted out Glasgow kiss. Was that a cheer for that? Okay, can you explain to the group what is a Glasgow kiss?
It's a headbutt.
It's a headbutt, yeah. I took that as a threat. I was terrified. And then in response to that, someone shouted out Aberdeen kiss. Has anyone heard of that? No one in the room there had heard of it either. So I was like, well, what is that? They said anal. 3 audience members left. That's not my fault. Because anal, like, that's fair enough, but it is a bold regional greeting, I think. So I think France still takes us on the sexiness. And I think France is maybe at least more like culturally like comfortable with sex and romance. And the reason I think this is because in airports in France, all the signs to the departures lounge say kiss and fly. Like, that is so nice, isn't it? It's so romantic. You guys are like, au revoir Jean-Claude, mon sexy petit flou. Okay, I don't actually speak French. Although according to Duolingo, I am 40% fluent. Thank you. Although that is to say not fluent. Like, you couldn't do that with anything else. Like, oh, I'm 40% proficient at stand-up. Like, I'm really good at setups, but just not at... Okay, I'm gonna... So, yeah, airports in France, departures lounge, kiss and fly. So nice, so romantic. Au revoir Jean-Claude, mon sexy petit flou. Whereas in the UK, where we're much less comfortable with sex and romance, our departures lounge is called Express Drop-Off. You're like, get the fuck out of the car, don't touch me! But for anyone we haven't convinced that France is the sexiest, I will give you this. There is a French sexiness paradox, and you study philosophy, so you probably know it. And that's because, like, while it is so sexy to be like hot, like it's so hot to be like disinterested, like in the actual act of banging, you want some enthusiasm. Okay, I want some enthusiasm. I don't want to be like, do you like that baby? And they're like, what is it like when you're born without reason? Persist out of weakness and die by chance, huh? That's hard to get off to. Not impossible. Not impossible. Also, does anyone know how colloquially in France they refer to orgasm? Shout it out if you know. Oh, okay, good, because I was thinking, okay, if a French person doesn't know, then have I made this up? Say it again. Le petit mort, oui, which translates to?
Little death.
The little death, yeah. 4 points for speaking French. Yeah, it translates to the little death. Now, does anyone else find that worrying? Because if someone was like, oh, how was sex with Chelsea? And they said, like a part of me died. I would not consider that a good review. Is that not used in France? What is the word? What is the word for orgasm? Is that okay to ask?
Orgasm.
If you didn't hear it, was orgasm. Yeah, that's better. That is better. But I was trying to figure this stuff out. Like when I was at university, that's where I was like going and trying to figure out this stuff for myself. Like I was going on big nights out, but I was still so like I had this like deep shame. Like it took me years of having sex before I ever looked a penis like in the eye. And I think that was reflected in like the partners I had. So my first boyfriend, he was gay. But he wasn't out at the time, of course, because he was in me. Okay, I was ashamed of that. But he's like comfortably out now. He is doing like so well. He's written a book about being gay. Like obviously that wasn't out at the time, or I might have clocked on. But I wonder if like there was a part of us that we like gravitated towards each other because we were both so ashamed about this. Because like later on when I was like going on these nights out, meeting people, like exploring this type of stuff, I was having a great time. But then I'd wake up the next morning feeling so dreadful about it, just really trying to distance myself from it. Like I'd wake up and I'd be like, that wasn't me, you know. But just like Shaggy, I think it was. And that kind of like distancing yourself, trying to split yourself up like that, it's not great for you. So I started to feel super disconnected. Like even my mind and body felt disconnected. So eventually my friends were like, we think you should go and see your doctor. But the problem is at university, my doctor was the most handsome man. He was the most handsome man I'd ever seen. So when I went to see him, my mind was telling me, Chelsea, he is here to help you. But my body was telling me, I want him to help me, like, really hard. And then, like, no matter what you go and see your doctor about, even if it is your mental health, they still ask you about your physical health. So he was like, do you work out? And he was so gorgeous. I was like, yeah. He was like, what do you do? I was like, running. He said, how far? I said 50K. So, yeah, he referred me directly to the mental health clinic. That is what happened next. And then when I was there, they started to ask really weird questions. Like one of them was, have you had any intrusive thoughts? But I didn't know what that was. So he explained it was like, oh, images or ideas that come from nowhere. Where are they supposed to come from? So I got a very high score. I got a high score, and so then what he recommended is, first of all, he recommended therapy, but like I couldn't afford that. Like my student loan didn't cover my accommodation, let alone anything else, plus I had that spendo problem, that's on me. And then secondly, he also recommended medication. He recommended antidepressants and uncle depressants. You have to throw a joke in. Or people get too uncomfortable at this point. But that's what he recommended, and I was lucky that even though I couldn't afford therapy, someone offered me free therapy, but still things were getting worse and worse. And then one day, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew it wasn't going to be one of my better ideas. So I decided I'd call a taxi to A&E. And obviously when you get a taxi, they ask like, where are you going? So I said A&E. And then he also said, oh, why? And I I was in no state to play it cool, so I said, oh, because I feel like my soul is rotting. And he switched it to Classic FM, turned it up, and didn't ask any more stupid fucking questions. Poor taxi driver. But so what happened after that is I ended up going to A&E, and then from there I ended up going to day hospital. And if you don't know what day hospital is, it's like a psychiatric ward, but you go like 9 to 5. So it's kind of like a nursery, but for mentally ill adults. Like the vibes are really similar. And like fortunately, I got a lot better. And one thing that happens after that is people tend to get diagnosed, and that's what happened to me. I ended up being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is what they used to call manic depression. So when they told me, I was like, typical Gemini. It was foretold. Yeah, he was uncomfortable like you guys are. He was like, I don't think you're taking this very seriously. But it is quite serious, right? Because bipolar disorder, it's where you have periods of mania and periods of depression. So you have periods of depression where you're like, my soul is rotting, and it's, like not good taxi chat, stuff like that. And then you have periods of mania or hypermania, which is where you think, I am the life and soul of this party. But everyone else thinks, did she just karate chop my light stand? And is she dressed as a testicle? Again, yes I am! Because when you're manic, if anyone's ever experienced it, like when you're manic, you get into really weird shit. Like you might for example, just like a random example, like off the top of my head, like get really into Shania Twain, like in a big way. Like in a huge way, and email everybody at work about her multiple times. Subject line, urgent for immediate action. But that did not impress them much. I know, man, I feel like a bellend. So truly, I really did that. And then my manager at the time, she called me into her office and she was like, Chelsea, like, just wondering, like, have you had any issues with your mental health before? And then through tears, I went, surprise! Me and her are still friends now, and she said to me, that was a lot to deal with. She was like, I was not expecting the jazz hands. But she says it's helped her out, because now in an interview, when she gets a question like, when have you as a manager had to deal with a challenging situation at work? She's got an answer. So that's bipolar disorder. And I know like bipolar disorder is really, really misunderstood. And the reason I know this is because recently, like my mum did a Facebook status about me and my mental health. Thanks, Mum. I'm so glad that generation are making it big on social media. And her Facebook status was, Chelsea has bipolar disorder, but she never lets it bring her down. I don't think she's understood what manic depression is. And okay, so I know for a fact that she hasn't understood what manic depression is, like bipolar disorder, because she came to see this show when I was doing it at the Fringe, and then she came up to me at the end and she said, Chelsea, are bipolar disorder and like manic depression the same thing? I was like, yeah, same thing, just bipolar disorder is like the new name for it. And she went, oh, that's interesting, because in the 80s, I was diagnosed with manic depression. I was like, Mum, it would have been helpful to know this at literally any point prior to now. Like, they asked. And it's made me like rethink. Okay, so here's the story. What happened was, and she's given me permission to say this, it's fine. Okay, so the story is, in the 80s, she was in a psychiatric ward after a manic episode, and then on day release, she saw these hats, and she was like, oh, I'd like one of those, but it was a beret to join the military police. So she just did that and never spoke about her mental health ever again. Like, that's how we used to deal with people who had mental health issues in the past. Like, I don't think they got the help they deserved. Like, come to think of it, I don't think Crazy Frog got the help he needed either. So that's what happened. That's what happened with Mum, and she didn't speak about it. But now she's talking about it, and it's made me rethink some of the things from my childhood to see if I can like spot signs of mania there. And I had this memory that like when I was really little, she took me to this like village barbecue. We don't live in a village; we live in an estate. But I guess they were trying to like rebrand as well. And she walked me home because I was just a kid. She walked me home. She tucked me in, and then I think I remember her saying, "Okay, I'm just going to get my belly dancing outfit and go back out." I had that memory, and I checked in with my dad. I was like, Dad, am I remembering this correctly? And he confirmed, yes. She came back to the party, she belly danced on the tables, and he added it was very much not the vibe. So that's my mum. And she's doing so much better now, and like I'm doing a lot better now. Can you tell? No, I am. I'm doing so much better now. And I think part of the reason why is like I'm seeing a new therapist. Like I'm in therapy, and sometimes people ask like, how do you find a good therapist? Here's how I find mine. Basically, like online, it came up with psychotherapists in your area, which made a change from all those damned horny MILFs. Okay, you get them in this area. Have you noticed though, it's always like sexy mums, isn't it? It's never like horny dads in your area. Or you'd be like, yeah, obviously. Okay, I can't look at you. Okay, was that harsh? Can we still be friends? Yeah. But so like, okay, back to me in therapy, all right? No, but I love my therapist. He's been so good, and we've been working through some stuff. Obviously, that's a part of therapy, and we've been talking about shame. So shame is one of the core emotions. Like we have 5 core emotions. There's shame, joy, tipsy, drunk, and hungover. Like they are the main. They are the main 5. That's why they were in that Disney film Inside Out. And I'm so interested in shame. Like my nan asked me what I did stand-up about. I said sexual shame, and she said, "Who's Shane?" What? But so we're thinking about shame. So what shame does is it can really it can make you not want to look at things. Basically, we're ashamed of things that we don't want to see. And I think that's what's happening to me. It was creating this split between nice, naughty, good, bad, day, night, manic, depressed. Because depression can be a bit hiding from it, and mania can be a bit running away from it. So now the thing I'm working on is trying to look at the things I was afraid of looking at. So here's something I left out of the story. So when I had that free therapy at university, the reason it was free is because it was from someone I knew, and they were I'll help you, I know you're going through a bad time. It can be free, you just need to pay for their train fare to get to me. And I was so appreciative. And then in the very first session he said, okay, keep a diary. And we know I love diaries. It was actually really similar in vibe, but No Tongue's Not a Lesbian is really poor form once you graduate past kissing. So that was the vibe. It was everything I was doing that week, and it was big nights out, having this fun time exploring these things, but then waking up and just feeling really dreadful about it. So I was writing about all this in the diary. Then I went to the session next week, and then about the diary he said, okay, hand it over. And I was terrified because I was what's it going to be like for somebody who knows me? He knows me as this nice, lovable person. What's he going to think when he reads about the stuff I've been doing, the stuff I've been thinking? And then I went along the next week, and he was there. And that was huge because I was okay, he still accepts me. But then he started to really focus on the sexual side of things, and it wasn't led by me. It started to make me feel really uncomfortable, but luckily I ran out of money to even get the train fare. Thanks, Spendo. So I stopped seeing him for therapy, and then I'd only keep in touch with him when he came into town on business. And this was a few years later, and in that time I'd been really working on myself, really getting empowered. Instagram had come out, I got really on board with the sexy selfie. I really dove into that big time. And then we met up for dinner, and then he said I'm so glad to see you, and I'm so pleased that you're doing so much better. And I was pleased too. I really was doing a lot better. And then he said, and I've seen your Instagram, and you're one of those fuck me girls. And I immediately, obviously that was awful, but then I was okay, maybe he doesn't mean that, maybe he thinks it's the bad bitch kind of thing, maybe he's confused, he's a bit older. And then he said, I'm so glad I could help you. He said, I wish you could help me. And he said, I've been going through some troubles in my relationship, and I would just if there was someone I could trust, if I could just see them naked, then I would know. Then I'd know what to do. And then he invited me to his hotel room. And immediately, that split that I was having before completely re-emerged, because my body wanted to, run out of there. But then my mind was telling me, but Chelsea, he helped you, and he's nice, and you're nice, so shouldn't you be, nice to the person that's, good to you? And I didn't know what to do. But luckily, I'm quick on my feet, so I thought of a compromise. I thought, what if I show you a nude? Because the good thing about me is I always have nudes on my phone ready to go. And I also need to keep a better idea on where my phone is. Okay, we're good. So that's not what I wanted to do, but it did help de-escalate the situation. So I showed him that, and then got the hell out of there. But it was only when I was walking back home that I started trying to guess when I was on the journey home that I started rethinking about all that stuff, and I was trying to figure out is this like, fuck me girl, is that what I am now? Like, is this how I can expect people to react to me now that I've like done these things that I thought were bad? And then I was like, no wait, but this is on him. And it was just like it was so like overwhelming, so I just started to like shout to like push the thoughts away. So I was like, ah, and then the taxi driver switched it to Classic FM. Luckily this was before Uber, or my rating would be completely ruined. But like, you don't have to worry, I've never seen him again, so don't worry about that. But at the time, it really did, like, it sent me into a spin, because I started to question these things. I was like, do I need to go back to being like nice and lovable? Like, I'd worked out like all these ways that I thought were like nice and safe, so I deleted every sexy picture off my Instagram. Like, it took ages, like it took so long. And then that night, my friends invited me on a big night out to club. They invited me on a big night out to the club, and that's my favourite thing. Like, that was my favourite thing in the whole wide world. So I thought I would love to do that, but then I thought, no, this isn't what good girls do. And I was on this like new mission. So then some friends I didn't know as well, they invited me to a dinner party, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is what good girls do. But what they were inviting me to was a murder mystery party. By way of a cheer, have any of you gone to or thrown a murder mystery party? Ooh, okay, quite a few. You've thrown one, been to one?
Been to one.
Been to one. And was it fancy? Like, did you get dressed up like 1940s?
Yeah,
It was great. Yeah, see, I think like they are, like, we love them in the UK. Like, we love murder mystery parties. Like, murder is one of our biggest cultural exports. Like, like we have like Inspector Morse, Taggart, like Mr. Blobby, like Sherlock Holmes. Like, okay, Mr. Blobby, he's killed and he'll kill again. But we have these murder mystery parties, and I loved it too. Like, I loved the opportunity to get dressed up. But then while I was there, I was thinking, actually, this is a bit weird, because in my own personal opinion, I actually just think that murder is actually like quite nasty. Like, okay, this is controversial. I actually think that murder is quite bad.
Yeah.
Okay, not all of you on board with this. Murder's quite bad. I don't know if you know this, okay, but in a murder, that person actually dies. Like, forever, like there's no coming back from that. And yet we go to these like murder mystery parties, whereas if you imagine an objectively lesser crime, like GBH, like grievous bodily harm, would you have accepted an invite to a GBH mystery party? No, I don't think we would, because murder, we love it. For some reason, it's like, I don't think it'd be like, gather around children, it's time for Midsummer GBH. Like, it's time for GBH, she wrote. Why did she write that? You know? Or dial M for GBH. Okay, I still don't think some of you are getting how bad murder is. So, I have the script here from Murder on the Orient Express. Do we know it? Okay, we know it. Okay, great. It involves me doing a very terrible French accent, but it doesn't matter, because Poirot famously wasn't French, he was fictional. Okay, Murder on the Orient Express. Are you ready? Je suis... Okay. Je suis Hercule Poirot. There has been a murder. A passenger has been killed. Forever. The suspect is on the train now. Everyone's like, oh, solve it, Poirot, but not too quickly. Not too quickly. Whereas now I have the script from GBH on the Orient Express. Are you ready? Okay, great. Je suis Hercule Poirot. There has been a J. Bay. Ash. A passenger has been Ed-booted. He has been kicked in the head with another Ed. The suspect is on the train now. I suspect he has not paid full fare. Look, there's a can of Carlsberg. Because you just know eventually, like, I think it's a fanciness thing, because once they eventually catch the murderer, for some reason, they're always treated with such a level of respect and decorum, and they're always like, well, I thought I committed the perfect crime, but you've got me. I go in peace. Whereas when Poirot catches the GBHer, it's not going to go down that way, is it? He's not going to be like, you got me, I go in peace. He's going to be like, Hercule, you cunt! You got nothing on me! I got no previous! I'll be out in 10 months, and I... Okay. I hope we've all learnt a lot from that. Have we? Let's check. We've learnt that murder is... Bad, yes, and GBH is... Good. Not good. We've learned nothing. Okay, let me just check in then. Who in here, by way of a cheer, who in here would still go to a murder mystery party? That's more of you than when we started. You'd still go to a murder mystery party. You'd go. Okay, you don't want to talk to me anymore, and I respect that. Who wants to talk to me? Would you still go to a murder mystery party?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, of course. But can I ask, like why? Why? Because do you think murder's bad?
Yeah, but nobody actually dies in a murder
Nobody
mystery
actually.
party.
Okay. So here are the reasons I've had. First of all, someone said they wouldn't go to a GBH mystery party because it wouldn't be much of a mystery. I was terrified. Okay, yeah, fair enough. The second thing I had is someone was like, murder, might not be that bad. Like, what if you're a Buddhist? I don't think the point of the peaceful spirituality of Buddhism is that it's fine to murder because you can come back. And then the third one, maybe the one I've had most commonly, is that it's fine because it's pretend.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't want to have to do this bit, but just because you love murder so much, I'm going to have to do it. Okay, it's fine because it's pretend. Okay, in that case, fine because it's pretend. Okay. Would you accept an invite to a pedo mystery party? Where all your friends gather around in their various costumes. As the host says, we found some very incriminating evidence on someone's hard drive. Find the nonce. Happy New Year! Would you go to that?
I don't think it would be that interesting.
You don't think it would be that interesting? Okay, I think most people would say no. Okay, but no, fair enough. It's an uncomfortable question, and when I was asking everybody that at the party, they asked me to please leave. They said I was ruining the vibe, so I did. I left the murder mystery party, and I went to rejoin my friends at the club, which is where I should have been the whole time. And I realised that not everything that you're told is nice, and not everything that you're told is nasty, is nasty, apart from being a pedo. Just want to clarify. That is really bad, because once someone came up to me at the end and they were like, the pedo one, don't. That's very much not the point. Anti-terrorist, just to clarify. But it's made me rethink a lot of things about what we're told. Yeah, what we're told is nice and what we're told is nasty. So now I'm trying to see myself without this lens of shame, trying to just look at things properly and see myself from all angles. And I was thinking back to the meth lady from the posters before. Yeah, I looked into that, but apparently the reason she allowed for those pictures to be taken is because it gave her time off her sentence, so she had more time with her son. And I just think there's so much more to the worst possible way people can see us in one moment. And so now that's why I'm trying to reconnect with the sides of myself that I was told were bad. That's why I'm trying to reconnect with my anger. That's why I've been so aggressive the whole I'm aggressive. I am trying to reconnect with my anger though, because I find it difficult to even pretend to be angry, which is a problem because I did GCSE drama, although A star. Thank you is how I referred to myself. I failed because you have to pretend to be angry, because anger is at the core of so many of our classic plays like Antigone, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Mr. Blobby's Big Day Out. Somebody said to me before, that's a lot of Mr. Blobby references. Not enough if you ask me. But I'm trying to reconnect with my anger and all these things that I was told were bad or not very nice. And part of that means reconnecting with my body. I think that handsome doctor was right. Exercise is part of it. So I've taken up roller skating. And if you see an adult roller skating, they are working on their mental health. That is what's happening. And it's helped me reconnect with my anger, right? Because I now have I have a dominant leg, but a really dominant leg. It's calling the other one a little bitch and spitting at it. And I'm trying to look at the things that previously I was shielding my eyes from, money as well. For example, I'm trying to talk about money a bit more honestly, and because the thing I'm sick of is people being oh, the reason millennials can't get on the property ladder is because you spend all your money on avocados. Can we please just put this whole avocado thing to bed? Because that's where I keep my avocados. I love them so that wasn't nominated one of the best jokes at the Fringe. Some of them have to be for you. But I'm trying to reconnect with all these bad sides of myself, or things that I was told was bad. And I hope that you can start to see yourself from all sides too. I try and see myself from all sides. That's why I take so many selfies. And because I'm not just a fuck me girl. No one is. And that was the caption I put on the sluttiest Instagram post you've ever seen in your life. And I saw that creepy counsellor guy saw it and then unfollowed me, so I posted it on LinkedIn. So what I want to say, like, I guess the final message of the show is that I hope you can also look at things that you previously wanted to like look away from, because that's how I'm trying to live now. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I am tired of living like a blind man. I really appreciate it. I just want to do some thank yous. First of all, thank you to Sidney and Eden for having us. Thank you to Alex Farrow, opening act and director, and Hunk. The laugh there was because I was embarrassed, not because it's true. He's a very sexy man. But yeah, so I really thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to me, and I hope you have a nice rest of the evening, but not too nice. Thank you. Good night.